April 19th, 2023, Hudson, Ohio. A respected professor fails to pick up his daughter from school. Concern grows. A welfare check is initiated. What officers find is a scene that will haunt the community forever. Todd Morgan was the kind of man people didn't worry about. He had routine, discipline, a quiet steadiness that made others feel safe. At 41, he was an assistant professor at Cleveland State University, teaching business ethics with a sincerity students rarely forgot. He wasn't just a teacher, he was a mentor, a guide, a lifeline for those trying to find their way. Outside the lecture hall, he was a devoted father of 2 young girls. Divorced but cooperative. He split holidays without arguments, took turns at parent-teacher conferences, picked them up from school with their favorite snacks in the passenger seat. His life, to outsiders, seemed uneventful, predictable, safe. And that's what made what happened next so terrifying. Every Sunday at 7 p.m., he FaceTimed his mother. Every Tuesday, he jogged the same wooded trail. Every Friday, he grocery shopped alone, earbuds in, listening to classical music. He wasn't the kind of man who took risks. But loneliness doesn't always look like risk. Sometimes it looks like curiosity, a swipe, a conversation, a plan. What no one knew was that Todd had recently started using a dating app, quietly, carefully, looking for connection, not danger. He wasn't reckless, he was hopeful. He thought he was meeting someone new, a fresh start, a dinner, maybe even something lasting. But someone else had other plans. Behind a carefully chosen profile picture and a few flirty messages was someone watching, waiting. And when he opened his front door that night, he didn't realize it would be the last door he ever opened. Because evil doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it knocks and smiles. April 19th began like any other Wednesday in Hudson, Ohio. A sleepy town waking up to birdsong and quiet streets. But by mid-afternoon, something felt wrong. Todd Morgan hadn't picked up his daughter from school. At first, there were excuses. Maybe he got caught up at work, maybe his phone died, maybe he just forgot. But that wasn't Todd. He never forgot. By 5 p.m., a family friend called in a welfare check. Officers arrived at his home on West Streetsboro Street, a quiet, tree-lined block where nothing ever happened. But what they found inside would echo far beyond that neighborhood. The front door was unlocked. The lights were on. Dishes sat in the sink, untouched. A half-full glass of wine still rested on the table, its rim smudged like it had been lifted, and set down quickly. Then, silence. And in the next room, Todd Morgan's body. He had been shot multiple times, head and torso. The scene was chaotic. Shell casings were scattered across the floor, a chair knocked over. A blood smear trailed toward the back door where muddy footprints disappeared into the yard. But there were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no kicked-in doors. Whoever did this had been let in. Police found his phone on the counter, open to a messaging app. His laptop was mid-email. A dinner for 2 had been set. Candles, unlit, a second wine glass wiped clean. This wasn't a random break-in. It wasn't rage. It was controlled. Quick. Chilling. As investigators sealed off the home, one officer quietly muttered, "This wasn't just a murder. This was a hit." And from that moment on, nothing about Todd Morgan's life or death would seem simple again. Detectives began their work before the sun rose the next morning. Every drawer, every device, every digital trace scrutinized, because one thing was already clear. This wasn't random. Todd Morgan had known his killer. The first break came from his phone. A message thread, brief, casual, flirty, nothing alarming until they traced it back to a dating app. Todd had connected with someone just hours before his death. Her name? Terreionna Paschal. But it wasn't just the messages. Investigators pulled cell tower data. Her phone pinged near Todd's house that same night. They reviewed footage from neighborhood doorbell cams. One captured a dark SUV arriving around 8:17 p.m. and leaving roughly an hour later. The plates were blurred, but the shape matched Paschal's vehicle, registered out of Akron. Then came the cigars. Found in an ashtray near the dining room, 2 partially smoked cigars. DNA tested. One belonged to Todd, the other, Paschal. And then, something even stranger. A 911 hang-up call made at 9:06 p.m. from a number later confirmed to be hers. No voice, just silence, then disconnect. Was it a panic dial? A mistake? A call for help? Or a moment of guilt? Her phone went dark after that. No texts, no calls, deleted app history, but nothing truly disappears. Investigators recovered deleted texts and app activity from the cloud. The picture was forming, but still blurry. Todd hadn't just invited someone into his home. He had unknowingly opened the door to a trap. Behind the soft messages and smiling selfies was someone with a history, one the police hadn't fully uncovered, yet. But every clue led deeper, and every answer raised a darker question. Her name was Terreionna Paschal, 32 years old, a quiet presence online but with a digital trail that told a very different story. On paper, she seemed unremarkable. A few jobs here and there, social media accounts mostly private. No obvious red flags until investigators dug deeper. Paschal had a prior arrest in 2021, domestic battery. Charges dropped, but the report was unsettling. Violent outbursts, emotional volatility, a pattern. And now, her DNA was at the scene of a murder. When detectives traced her phone to the 911 hang-up, the timing lined up too perfectly. It was placed within minutes of when Todd Morgan was believed to have died. But Paschal didn't report anything. She didn't return to the house. She didn't call again. She vanished. For days, she stayed off the grid. No credit card use, no cell activity, just digital silence. When police finally tracked her down through toll road cameras and ATM footage, she was in a rental car, headed west. No luggage, just a backpack, and a phone she had tried to wipe clean. She was arrested without incident. But inside the car, investigators found handwritten notes. Todd's address, his kids' names, dates, circled. One note simply said, Plan B? In interviews, she was calm, collected, flat. She claimed she and Todd had planned a casual meetup. She said she left early, that he was alive when she walked out. But her story had holes, and her eyes deadpan, unreadable. When police confronted her with the DNA, the phone data, the camera footage, she didn't cry. She didn't protest. She just went quiet. Because whatever brought Terreionna Paschal to that house that night, it wasn't love, it wasn't curiosity. It was something colder, and she wasn't ready to tell them why. The evidence told a story, but the motive, that was still a ghost. Why would a woman travel nearly an hour to meet a man she barely knew and leave him dead in his own home? Investigators began piecing together what little they had. The $50 Cash App payment from Todd to Paschal stood out, sent just minutes before his estimated time of death. The note attached simply read, "See you soon." Was it payment for something? Dinner? Gas money? Or was it bait? Todd wasn't known for risky behavior. He wasn't careless. But maybe he was lonely. And loneliness has a way of lowering the volume on red flags. Police uncovered search history from Paschal's phone. She had looked up Todd's full name days before they met, his address, his university profile, and chillingly, the phrase, "how to delete phone location history." Then came a timeline discrepancy. Paschal claimed she left before 9 p.m., but her phone was pinged near the residence until 9:17. That was around the time the neighbors reported hearing what they thought were fireworks. She also Googled how long it takes police to trace Cash App transfers. She deleted the app shortly after. But the most disturbing clue? A short voice memo recovered from her phone's deleted files. 12 seconds of silence. Then a whispered, trembling voice. He wasn't supposed to be home. No context, no timestamp. Just that. Was she targeting Todd? Or was he a stand-in for someone else? Was it premeditated or spontaneous? The prosecution called it robbery. The defense hinted at mental instability. But neither side could answer the question that haunted everyone who knew him. Why Todd? And what happened in those final minutes before the glass tipped the shot fired, and his quiet life unraveled? The trial was swift, but the emotions inside that courtroom were anything but. Terreionna Paschal, now facing a charge of aggravated murder, walked into the Cuyahoga County Courthouse in silence. No outburst, no visible remorse, just that same unreadable expression, flat, unmoved, like this was all happening to someone else. The prosecution laid out the evidence like dominoes: DNA on the cigars, surveillance footage, the deleted voice memo, the phone data placing her at the scene, the $50 transfer, the 911 hang-up. There was no confession, no eyewitness, but the digital footprint painted a picture too clear to ignore. Paschal's defense team didn't argue the facts. They leaned into the psychology. They described her as unstable, emotionally fractured, possibly coerced by a life of trauma and abandonment. But even as they spoke, her silence was deafening. Todd Morgan's family filled the benches behind the prosecution. His daughters sat beside their grandmother, holding hands. His sister clutched a photo of him holding his youngest at a birthday party. And when the plea was announced, guilty, there was no gasp, no celebration, just tears. Quiet, exhausted, inevitable tears. Paschal was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 23 years. During sentencing, Todd's older daughter stood and read a statement. She was just 13. "You took my dad. I'll never understand why. I hope someday you have to feel what you made us feel." Paschal didn't lift her head. For the court, the case was closed. Justice, by legal standards, had been served. But for the people who loved Todd Morgan, justice would never look like a prison sentence. Because no cell, no years behind bars, could ever balance the life she stole. After the cameras left, after the sentencing was read and the courtroom emptied, Hudson, Ohio remained changed. Todd Morgan's home was no longer just a house. It became a symbol, a reminder of how quickly safety can vanish and how violence can bloom in silence. His colleagues at Cleveland State held a memorial in the campus auditorium where he once lectured. Students lit candles. Some cried. Some stood in silence. One left a note at the podium. "You changed my life." The university created a scholarship in his name, the Todd Morgan Fellowship for Business Ethics. It was the kind of legacy he would have been proud of. Quiet, purposeful, rooted in helping others. But the community felt the loss too deeply to just move on. Parents talked differently to their teens about online safety. Faculty double-checked their own digital footprints. Conversations shifted from casual to cautious, because if it could happen to someone like Todd, it could happen to anyone. His daughters still live in the same town, still attend the same schools, but they no longer wait at the curb for a car that's late. They no longer wake up to the smell of Sunday morning pancakes. Grief became their new normal. Every year now, on the anniversary of his death, the city gathers for a candlelight walk through campus. No speeches, no headlines, just quiet footsteps and flickering lights, leading to the bench beneath the tree Todd used to sit under between lectures. On the back of that bench, a plaque reads, "He believed in people, even when it was dangerous." The community remembers him, not for how he died, but for how he lived. But the shadows left behind still linger. Todd Morgan didn't die in a high-crime neighborhood. He wasn't part of a dangerous lifestyle. He didn't make enemies, break rules, or live recklessly. He was a father, a teacher, a man who believed in people. He welcomed someone into his home, hoping to find connection, and instead met betrayal wrapped in a smile. His story isn't just about murder. It's about how easily danger can wear a mask, how quickly trust can be weaponized, and how no one, not even the safest, kindest among us, is immune to the quiet pull of the wrong person at the wrong time. And yet, Todd's life wasn't defined by how it ended. It was defined by early mornings with his daughters, by long afternoons shaping the futures of students who needed someone to believe in them, by quiet acts of love that never made the news but shaped lives in invisible ways. What happened to Todd Morgan wasn't just tragic. It was preventable. And that's why we tell these stories. Not for shock, not for ratings, but to remember, to warn, to honor. If you've made it this far, you carry Todd's story now too. So talk about him. Share his name. Let his life stand for more than a headline. And if stories like this matter to you, if you believe that awareness can save lives, subscribe. Not just to this channel, but to the mission of remembering the forgotten. Because for every Todd Morgan, there's someone else still trusting the wrong smile, still opening the wrong door, still one decision away from never coming back. And maybe, just maybe, if we keep telling these stories, someone else's ending won't have to be the same.
Rest in peace, Todd Morgan. You were seen. You were loved. You will not be forgotten.